Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Maria Kliavkoff, and I'm the founding director of Healthy Mourning Revolution, which is a company dedicated to revolutionizing the way we think about grief and mourning. But in my spare time, over the past many years, decades actually, I have volunteered with Rotary. I am a Rotarian with District 5080. I belong to the Passport Peace Builder Club. And in District 5080, I am also a founding co-chair of the Peace Committee. And I did that for 5 years. And now we have other fabulous chairs of that committee. But in my time there, I was instrumental in helping educational opportunities for the district governor line, for clubs, and for helping them to find how we can really shift that particular district into a peace building district and how we can take individual action and club level action to create peace builder projects. From there, I became the president of Waterton Glacier International Peace Park Association, which, by the way, is the first international peace park in the world. Very proud of that. And in my 2-year tenure as president, I worked very closely with the superintendents of both parks, as well as with many Rotarians from around the world that were initiating and creating peace park projects and other peace builder projects. In my 2 years, and I'm just in my second year as past president of Waterton Glacier International Peace Park Association, I have worked very hard to learn key steps to facilitation. So I've gotten my certificate with Mediators Beyond Borders with a focus on peace building work. And I'm currently working with the Bridge Institute to also work on their peace facilitation training and complete their programming. And I have an exciting opportunity. And today's conversation is all about that exciting opportunity because it's the next step of my peace building work. Because I've been really curious about what is the intersection point between my work world, which is about grief and mourning and creating compassionate grief communities worldwide, and my peace builder work. And the opportunity to bring those two worlds together has come up. So, what I want to do today is share with you what that opportunity is and invite you to join me for the ride, actually. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen so that I can share my PowerPoint with you, and we will get going. This is a fun PowerPoint that I really enjoyed putting together for clubs in both District 5080 and 5020. And so I'm going to see if I can make this larger for you. And with that, there we go. All right. So the topic, and I chose to talk about this as the 14 golden tickets because we only have 14 spots on this particular journey that I'm going to be talking to you about. But I am recording this at the very beginning of January of 2026. So as I head into a new year, there's a practice that I do that I was taught by Hay House author and best-selling author, I should say, and just phenomenal mentor, teacher, friend, colleague, Dr. Robert Holden. So honored to work with Robert. But he has this concept of golden tickets. And he says at the beginning of any year, what you want to do is you want to create 12 tickets, ideally one golden ticket per month. And the whole purpose of the golden ticket is that they're opportunities to celebrate and be in alignment with your dreams and goals. And so they move you forward and they inspire you to take action. So it's 12 months, 12 golden tickets. And the question that starts you on figuring out what your 12 tickets might be is what are your dreams for the coming year? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And really, how do you want to celebrate your successes? And how do you want to be inspired? But for Rotarians, I twist this just a little bit and I say for Rotarians, we're all about service. So where do you want to serve? And I would suggest, where do you want to joyfully serve? Let's bring joy into this conversation of the golden tickets. So, in thinking about these golden tickets, I have created an opportunity with a friend of mine, and Ray Matsumiya and I started this conversation a while ago that I think you might be interested in. So, let's take a look at the conversation that we had. Now, for those of you who know me or who have worked with me, you know that Barry Razin, who's former international president of Rotary, has said to me personally that peace begins one conversation at a time. And it was an answer to a question I had asked him when I asked him if the Polio Plus campaign has taught Rotarians anything about world peace. What has it taught us? And his answer was that peace happens one conversation at a time. From the moment I first heard Barry's words, I've been changed because I think about what is the conversation that I'm being called to, and what is the conversation that somebody else is trying to have with me, and how can I bring my best self to that conversation? And so, sitting and meditating around when we were in Calgary for the 2025 celebrations, the Rotary International Conference, I got to work with Ray Matsumiya. And so, Ray works with the Oleander Initiative. And Ray's big question is what happens if we learn from the City of Peace what they did to get there? And the city we're talking about is Hiroshima. Ray's grandfather was one of the first responders after the atomic bomb fell to Hiroshima. They lived in a neighboring city, and he was one of the first responders. So Ray has a very direct connection to the story and to the events that have happened there. And Ray created the Oleander Initiative as a way to bring people to Hiroshima to learn about the city and the peace conversation and how the city has become such a center of peace from such tragedy and to take those lessons home. Well, when I was working with Ray, I was coming with this question of what is this intersection point between grief and peace, because I was really curious what my next steps might be. And so the what is the intersection point between grief and peace is a powerful, powerful question. And I found that in what Ray was talking about, together, if the two of us sat in conversation and explored this together, we might find an answer. And this is what we found. Let me start by giving you a little bit of history on the Oleander Initiative, which started quite a while ago, but it was an evolution. So it originally was not called Oleander. Originally, it was born out of Harvard, and Harvard was dedicated to doing peace training. And it was actually connected to the Middle East, and they were going to do peace projects with the Middle East, and they got a lot of money that was government funded, but then the government funding dried up, and a private donor came on board, and it became something different. And what it became was the Oleander Initiative. It's not my story to tell. Ray tells it because it's his story so clearly and succinctly. So I'm brushing over a lot of stuff, and if you have the opportunity, really listen to Ray talk about how the Oleander Initiative came into being. But what I wanted to share with you is why it was named Oleander eventually. The flowers growing in Hiroshima in the fall of 1945, you can see that picture right there. It was the first flower that grew back in all the rubble. And if you take a look at the color picture there, you can see the beautiful oleander in front of the Peace Monument, which there was a conscious choice to keep that as it was without restoring it so that they never forget, so that there is an understanding of why peace is so important. It is a driving force in Hiroshima. The commitment to learning from how Hiroshima became a city of peace is the key to everything. And it's about learning the lessons of Hiroshima and bringing them home. And then we inspire others to take not only these lessons home, but to create peace in their own home from the lessons that they learned in Hiroshima. So as I was listening to Ray talk about this, I was reflecting on what I know to be true about Healthy Mourning, because my company is Healthy Mourning. And the vision of Healthy Mourning is to create compassionate grief communities around the world. And as I listened to Ray compassionately talking about Hiroshima and the peace, the profound peace and sustainable peace that they have found, I realized that what they have done is they've created a community that not only embraces the horrific grief that they experience, but allows healthy mourning and creates opportunity for healthy mourning. And what that does is that creates a space where buried and carried grief is welcomed. So, for those of you who may not know, buried and carried grief is what happens when we choose not to engage with our grief. We choose not to convert our grief to mourning. So, grief being the internal experience of loss, mourning the external expression of loss. Buried and carried grief happens when we choose not to mourn our losses, but rather to bury and carry that. And it becomes quite heavy to carry. And our life spark diminishes over time as we build on these buried and carried griefs. So the key is to learn how to do catch-up mourning. And I was saying to Ray that I thought it is profoundly beautiful how when you journey to these places that he was talking about in Hiroshima, you journey to the museum, you journey to see the surviving tree, that there's got to be spontaneous grief that just surfaces. And his response to that was, it's funny you should say that because that's exactly what happens. People spontaneously weep. And he's never quite known, where that weeping is coming from or what to do with it. And what I've said is, well, that spontaneous weeping is actually buried and carried grief being made welcome and surfacing. And when we can mourn it, when we can actually cry those tears, we become released and we feel peace inside of ourselves. So the bridge between grief work and peace work was starting to show itself. And I was saying to Ray, I think I have to go to Hiroshima. I think I need to bring people to Hiroshima. And I think we need to do a program around how do you make welcome the grief so that you can find profound peace not only in yourself, but then you become a vessel for peace in the world, which, let's face it, at this time in our history, nothing is more important. And despite all of the work that I've done in grief and all of the work that I've done in terms of peace and peace building worldwide, when I listen to the news, I feel like a deer in headlights and I don't know what to do. And then I have to find that place deep inside of myself that is anchored in peace, that comes from feeling the grief, allowing myself to express the grief that I'm feeling and mourn the loss and move forward in this peaceful way. And so healthy mourning leads to this profound peace. And as I was saying this to Ray, Ray said, "Well, this sounds fabulous. Would you be open to a co-facilitator?" And I said, "Well, not only would I be open to it, I kind of think I require it because I don't have the expertise around the Hiroshima stuff. My expertise is around the grief stuff. Um, but I would need somebody to co-facilitate this for sure. And do you have somebody in mind? Because I was really eager to meet the person he was going to identify. And he said, "Oh yeah, this one I'm going to be the co-facilitator on. I'm coming with you." And so this is a very rare opportunity when it's going to be Ray and I co-facilitating this trip to Hiroshima in October of 2026. And I'm so excited to share this with you because what we get to do is just phenomenal. What we get to do starts with us meeting the hibakusha. So the hibakusha are those who have survived. And the sad truth is, due to age, they're not going to be around for much longer. But for right now, we're so grateful that they come and they talk to us, and we have these personal testimonials, and we can ask questions and we can learn from their wisdom, and we can sit with the wisdom of the elders who have gone through this. We also get to sit with professors from Hiroshima University and hear about their wisdom and their understanding of what Hiroshima did, not only in the history and the experience, but what they have consciously built and how they have built this consciousness around peace. It's quite beautiful, and to have that access to me is stunning. We get to travel to Peace Boulevard, and you can see that there's a street that goes right down the center of Hiroshima. And that street is called the Peace Boulevard. Everything in the city is focused on peace and peace building. We get to go to the Peace Park. In fact, in the back of this picture, you see the Peace Memorial that I was talking about, and then we get to go to the Peace Memorial Museum. And I've had people who have been there tell me that literally just to be in that space, it was life altering for them. Because again, it accessed that deep place, and one person even spoke about the ancestral grief that they felt coming forward as they were in this space. And that's what we get to do. We get to allow the ancestral grief to move up and out of us and have expression and have a safe and gentle place to be received so that we can then find that deeper peace underneath it. This particular picture touches me deeply because you'll see that the clock is stopped at exactly the moment that the bomb hit. And they managed to find this clock and the family who owned the clock. And so exhibits like this, they're heart-rendering for sure. More things that we get to do is we get to go visit the Habuku Jamuko tree. I'm hoping that by the time I get there, I will learn pronunciations and I will be better at it. What is so stunning about this tree, this was the surviving tree. This was the tree that survived the atomic bomb blast. And they're doing everything they can to support its growth. You can see that there are sticks that have been placed there underneath it to girder it, to support it. And this becomes a place where deep emotion is felt because this is a story of survival and of a dedication to survival and sustenance. In addition to that, we get to go to the Hankawa School because part of what Hiroshima did was they created curriculum where the curriculum really does explore peace from all angles. So from the time you're a kindergartner on up through grade 12 and beyond, you are studying peace. It is part of the curriculum, and who you become at the end of your education is somebody who is dedicated to peace because of the way it's woven into the curriculum. So we're going to get to learn about that. We're going to get to go to the Nagatsuka monastery because as we go through a grief journey, it's really important for us to think about faith and how do we anchor into faith and how do we keep open to all faiths so that each person finds the peace that they need because the expert on their grief journey is the individual, and that individual leans on their faith of origin. And so it's an important piece of the conversation. We get to visit the island of Miyajima, and I want to emphasize that we get to do these things availability dependent, right? So this is what we're planning for you, but as we map it all out and get the specific dates and such, there might be some modifications. We hope that you understand that, but this is what our intention is. These are the places that we intend to go, and we're very fortunate to have the Oleander Initiative piece this tour together for us. Even more things we get to do is we get to experience the food and the culture. So the cuisine of Japan is phenomenal. And to hear Ray talk about, the meals that we get to eat together, and we do share every meal together, including our final dinner. And this upper left-hand picture is of a final dinner of one of the tours that went to Hiroshima. So we're going to be very fortunate to have these experiences. We're also going to have a crane making workshop so that we learn how to create these examples of peace, which are so beautiful and stunning and meaningful. We're also going to get to the Kagura performance. For those of you who may not know, my master's degree is in theater directing, and culture and theater and that moment of catharsis in a theater and that opportunity to experience culture um, from watching a stage and listening to and learning the stories. That's so crucially important to me. So I'm so thrilled to say that this tour, that will be part of our experience. Um, And the other thing we get to do, and it's really important because this is how we anchor everything and digest everything and bring it home, is we get to reflect, we get to digest, we get to integrate, and we get to inspire each other so that collectively together we get to start thinking about, so how are we going to bring the lessons that we're learning here home with us? What are the pieces that really have changed the way we think about the world? What are the pieces that have changed the way we think about ourselves or our ancestral journey? And how do we bring that piece of the puzzle home and inspire others? And again, create this space for compassionate grief community that allows for this profound peace and this movement forward in peace. In order to do this, we have to have very clear intentions for this trip. And Ray's and my intention is that we experience the magic of the peace and presence that Hiroshima offers. To be present in these experiences is to experience the magic of the peace that has been created and to understand why it is so important to do so and to learn the lessons of how they did it, because that how piece is important, to learn how these amazing people used the pain of the loss and destruction and turned it into a long-lasting, sustainable example of peace for the world. That's everything. That's life-changing right there. To lovingly embrace our own grief and learn the secrets of catch-up mourning. Believe me, once you learn these secrets of catch-up mourning, once you understand how to embrace your own grief, you'll not be afraid of it again. And you will be able to be there for others who are in a grief journey, and you will be able to bring profound peace to their experience. And so that's a big piece of the puzzle, and it's an important tool that you're going to get to carry home with you. You get to find your own inner peace. And this is all about that anchor that I was talking to you about. It's that anchor that allows you to be a peaceful presence regardless of the circumstances in the world. And again, never a more important time, certainly not in my lifetime, than now, to be able to anchor into that inner peace and be the presence of peace, even in the face of some of the crazy that's happening around us right now. And you get to be inspired to bring that peace home and share it with our various communities. And in that way, we spread it out. Those are the key intentions for this trip. Um, there are, like I said, 14 golden tickets. I think at this point we're probably around 10 golden tickets. I've done this presentation to 2 clubs so far. If you are a Rotary Club that would like me to come and speak to your Rotary Club about this opportunity, I would be so happy to do so. Please just contact me. If you have any questions, um, I have a one-page sheet that I can send to you. But these are the key information. This is the key information that you need to know about that. So on the one-page sheet, it explains that our dates are October 14th to the 19th of 2026. The program fee right now, there's a range, and the reason for the range is twofold. First of all, we're assuming that, we will be full up at 14. We think these tickets are going to go fairly quickly, at least from what we've experienced so far. So the sooner you register, the better to make sure you get the golden ticket. But the program fee is dependent on the number of participants, and it's also dependent on the exchange rate at the time. So the range right now is 2,400 to 2,800 US dollars. We're hoping that it will come in somewhere around 2,600. Ray says that from past experience, that is likely where it's going to land. So, but we just need to be really responsible with this. So we want to give you that full range so that we're clear on it. The program fee includes hotel in Hiroshima, all meals, speakers, activities, and admission tickets. Everything from the time you land in Hiroshima to the time you leave are included. The registration is a $500 deposit that is fully refundable to July of 2026. And then the balance, 1,900 to 2,300, again, dependent on what the exchange rate is at that time, will be due July of 2026. Now, here's the really important piece of this. This speaks to everything in Hiroshima, October 14th to October 19th. That's the program time. Because of what I know to be true about, when grief surfaces and what that process is, some people may need a few extra days for integration and support. And so Ray and I and his team were working to see if we can do a 3-day extension that I would be available for, where I would stay with whoever chooses to stay, and it would be, kind of self-guided. There's nothing that we would be planning or booking, but rather this is an opportunity for us to just really integrate everything that has happened, to go through anything that might be bubbling up, and just make sure that we leave gently. But that is outside this particular program. So this just speaks to the main program. If that add-on becomes available, then we will certainly let everybody know as soon as it becomes available. Then the next thing to do once we do this is to meet in Hiroshima on Wednesday, October 14th, 2026, and experience this journey together. This promises to be a really special and magical journey, and I, for one, can't wait for it. So, whatever you end up doing in 2026, it is my hope that you do get the 12 golden tickets for yourself. And if one of these 14 golden tickets is part of that journey for you, I would certainly welcome you on board, and I'd be very excited to do this journey with you. But whatever you end up doing in 2026, just please make it matter. There's never been a more important time for all of us to show up as our best selves and contribute the gifts and talents and treasures that we were meant to give. And so please just make your golden tickets matter. With that, if you do have questions, then I ask you to reach out to me. You can reach me at mkfacilitations@shaw.ca. That's my direct email. So mkfacilitations@shaw.ca is the way to get a hold of me. I will happily send you the one pager. I've got the one pager right here, and I would just send it to you as an attachment so you can see everything that we talked about in this PowerPoint. It lists all of the things we're hoping to do. It tells you a little bit about Ray and myself, and then it talks about the fees, and then I can also tell you the specifics of how to register. And other than that, I really just want to thank you for your time and for sharing your talents and insights, because sharing who you are, that's everything. And for the Rotarians who are of service and always give the most of themselves, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing just that and sharing the best of who you are in 2026. Until we see each other again, I'm going to end this show, and I am going to stop the share. And I am going to say to each and every one of you, namaste. The light in me honors the light in you. Be well for this year. Namaste.